So today's video is a little bit different from most of the videos I do. Most of the videos talk about how you can eat healthier on a budget, how you can eat healthier, have a healthy lifestyle. But I'm hoping to do a series of videos on how you can live a healthy life with a chronic illness. And I'm going to specifically look at the chronic illnesses that I have, but if you would like me to look at a specific chronic illness, then please comment below and I'll see what I can do. Today's video, I'm going to look at my experience with living with intestinal failure. Hopefully, if you have any type of gut issue, doesn't have to be intestinal failure, it could be IBS, whatever, then hopefully this video might help you see that just because you have this horrible chronic illness that is a pain in the sometimes, you can still live a meaningful life and you can still enjoy yourself. I do have to say, out of all of my illnesses, the intestinal failure is the most difficult one to deal with. If you have gut issues, you'll know that if you have an off day, it's very rare that you can get anything done. Between having to take painkillers, just cancel plans, everything, it can be hard. So I've had it since I was 2. The type of intestinal failure I have is malabsorption. So I can't absorb the nutrients from my food in order to live, basically. I can't absorb enough of them. And there's no way of knowing how much I actually absorb from my food. But growing up, I attended Our Lady's Children's Hospital in Crumlin, and my doctors tried everything they could to see if they could increase my absorption of my foods. But I was constantly underweight. I was always playing catch up. If I ever did manage to put on some weight, I would lose it again because I'd become ill or something would happen. So I was severely underweight. I think I was about the same height I am now, 5 foot, and I was 23 kilos, which is like half my weight now. So I was very underweight, and you can see from photographs, my bones were sticking out. And at the time, I knew I was too skinny. I knew I had to put on weight, like I was trying, but nothing I did worked anyway. But I don't think I realised how skinny I was until I look back at pictures now. And I actually sometimes get upset looking back at pictures when I see how thin I was. I do remember that I had no energy. I was always catching infections. I didn't really have any quality of life. And it was because I was always sick, and it was nearly always my gut problems. The one thing that always kind of, I'm not going to say annoyed me, but frustrated me, was a lot of people didn't understand. They would look at me and they would think I was choosing not to eat. They would say, we need to feed you up, we need to give you this food. I love food. I've always loved food. My family are very food orientated. All our get-togethers involve food. So it wasn't that I didn't want to eat. And it wasn't that I couldn't eat, like I didn't have difficulty swallowing. It was that I knew there was like a 99.9% chance if I ate something, it was going to affect me negatively. And I was afraid to eat. And even now, like I still have intestinal failure. Even now, if I'm ever traveling somewhere, I try not to eat. I try to eat as little as possible. Now, when I was 18, around 17, 18, my doctors did decide that like they needed to do something. Otherwise, I wasn't going to last much longer. So they put me on this special tube feed called Parental Nutrition. And it goes through a tube in my chest. I have a central line here. And it goes right into my bloodstream. It bypasses my gut completely, and it contains all the nutrients, fats, proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals that I would be getting from my food. And it is a big thing to go on this because I get it now at home 4 nights a week. I go up on it, and it has helped me so much. And even though it's such a big thing to do, I always think, why didn't they put me on it sooner? I wish they'd put me on it sooner. Now, there's a whole load of complications that can come with it, like your line can get infected, you can get sepsis. I got sepsis once. It was not fun. Actually, I think I've had sepsis twice. The first time I actually can't remember very much about it. That's how bad I was. I was delirious, and yeah, so there's complications with it, but if you look at the pictures I showed earlier and look at me now, that is because of the TPN, or the Parental Nutrition. I don't get infections as much now. I used to be in hospital all the time for all types of infections. Lung infections, chest infections, ear infections, any infection, I got it. Not anymore. I have more energy. Like when I started TPN, I was able to start taking regular dance classes. Whereas before, I couldn't. One dance class would have floored me for the week. Before the TPN, I keep calling it TPN. That's like the abbreviated for the tube feed. But before that, I would celebrate getting through 1 week of school without missing any time, missing any days, because having to go home or not being able to come in. And that's what it was like. If I didn't have the energy to do anything other than go to school, and sometimes I didn't even have the energy to do that. And that's kind of what got me interested in nutrition, to be honest. When I realised how important it was, I realised that even though it didn't cure me, I still have to take all my medication, I still have all those other things to deal with, but it did give me quality of life. And I'm going to show you the Parental Nutrition bag. It looks like milk. It's not milk. It definitely doesn't smell like milk. If you spill it, your room will smell like fish, chips and vinegar for a long time. So don't spill it. So this is the bag, and it hangs up on a drip stand, and I attach it from here, long tube, and I get that full bag 4 nights a week. So I get 4 of these a week, and it's got like all my calcium, it's got my calories, my fat, potassium, everything. Basically everything I should be getting from my food. And it's about a kilo. It's quite heavy. So it is a lot. But my body reacted well to it, thankfully. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it saved my life. Do I wish I didn't have to take it? Of course. I wish I didn't have to take it. I wish that I could eat food and get the benefits from it. But now the thing about it is I don't have the pressure of having to eat. I can eat when I feel like I'm able to. So I said before, when I'm traveling, I don't eat. I eat very little. I depend on this. I would make sure that I had a bag of this the night before. And quite honestly, I don't get hungry very much because I'm getting pretty much most of my calories in this. So I say if I had a bag of that, it would be like 3 or 4 o'clock in the day before I would start feeling hunger. And I can eat if I feel like my stomach's able for it. If I feel my stomach's not able for it, then I don't have to eat. Now, I do have the added complication of having type 1 diabetes, which I will do a video of later. It messes things up sometimes and makes it so that I have to eat, whether I feel like I can or not. But with that aside, I can depend on the TPN to keep me nourished. Also, if I do happen to become unwell, where I'm not able to eat, I'm still getting my nutrients from my PN. So if you watch my other videos, you know that I do like cooking, and that's not fake. I do love cooking. I cook for most of my family, which is a bit ironic, seeing as I'm the one with intestinal failure. But I don't eat a lot of food, like large amounts, but I like to taste different foods. There are some foods that I know I have to stay away from, so greasy foods, because the type of malabsorption I have is fats and fat soluble vitamins. So even things like avocados that are full of healthy fats, it doesn't matter, healthy fats, saturated fats, I don't absorb them. So foods that are high in fat, even salmon and tuna and oily fish, I can eat small amounts but not a lot. Greasy food that would, like takeaway foods, I don't eat them because they're not worth it. Soy is a big no-no for me, which is very sad because I love Chinese takeaways, but after feeling like I was going to die after a few of them, I think I kind of came to the conclusion that I don't want to die by Chinese takeaways, so soy is out for me. Spicy food, there's no particular reason why I should not be able to eat spicy food, except that as well as having intestinal failure, I have also inherited IBS. So spicy food is also out. But I love experimenting with foods, different flavors, to try and make my very limited diet exciting. And look, I have managed to do it sometimes. Sometimes my experiments turn out really, really well, and my entire family love them. Other times, they're edible, and that's about it. But I like cooking, I like food, I just can't eat a lot of it. Basically, what happens if I eat a food that doesn't agree with me, it's like getting a very bad case of food poisoning. And that could happen to me multiple times a week. And you might think, why don't you just stay away from the foods you can't eat? I know I said I have a list of definite foods I need to stay away from, but there are times when I would eat something and I'd be fine. And then I'd eat the exact same thing on a different day, and all hell breaks loose. It is annoying, because especially if I'm going like eating out in a restaurant or out somewhere, I get very, very anxious about ordering, because half of my brain is a foodie and I like get excited about food. The other half is like, if you get something and it tastes really good, it's probably gonna really upset your stomach. So that's a big downer for me. But what I have realized is you need to speak up when you're eating out. Most of the time places are very good. You need to be clear on what you can't have. So if you're celiac, for example, you need to be very clear. You can't have anything with gluten in it. Most restaurants should be aware of that, so they should be aware that that means that you can't have food that's cooked near anything with gluten in it as well. If I say I can't have soy, they should make sure that anything on my plate has no soy on it. I need to trust them that they'll do that. Also, sometimes I see something on the menu and I know I'd really like it, but there's a few things in it that I can't have. Like maybe it says there's garlic on it. Now, I can't not have garlic. I cook with garlic sometimes, but very small amounts. Normally in restaurants, they use a lot more than I would use at home. So I normally ask them, could they do it without the garlic? Or sometimes I love Italian food. So if there was a pasta dish and it said it had it with a creamy sauce, I would ask, could I have it with a tomato-based sauce? Sometimes they can't do that, and that's fine. I just try and pick something else. And sometimes they can. And yeah, so you do need to speak up. Otherwise, you're just going to end up being miserable. afterwards or get a very bland dish. What I do when I have one of my flare-ups, it depends what the flare-up is, to be honest. If it's pain and spasms, cramps, then I would take painkillers, antispasmodics. Hot water bottle is my sidekick. Take it everywhere with me. I even used to have like a little mini hot water bottle with me at secondary school that I had in my locker. Partly because I was always cold, but also if I had an upset stomach, it was nice to have it. I'd have it under my jumper. Nobody really noticed. That's what I do. I normally would rest as well. Sometimes I find that if I'm not too bad, I'll try and do stuff to take my mind off it. Whether that be get some work done, maybe edit some videos, write some blogs, do some research. Sometimes doing a bit of yoga helps, depending on what it is that's wrong with me. Yeah, so that's what I do. It's different for everybody. I also like to find herbal teas help a lot. So peppermint tea would be one that I drink every morning, and it helps with like bloating, that kind of discomfort. And I also get these really cool little peppermint capsules in health food shop in Letterkenny, and I find them very good as well. I used to take Rennies and for bloating, but there's calcium carbonate in them, so it kind of affected my other medication. So I was looking for something more natural, and the peppermint capsules, they're like in little gel capsules, so they reach your gut. They don't just dissolve, and they definitely help. So I would recommend them. I think the brand name is Sona, but I'll link them in the description below. So that's what I do when I'm having an off day. So I mentioned when I started taking my tube feed regularly, I was able to start regular dance classes. And I also found that dancing really helped with pain. So obviously on a day that I was really bad and doubled over in pain, no, I did not go dancing to dance class. But if I only had a little bit and I started joining the class, I don't know whether it was because it took my mind off it, or physical activity does release dopamine, which is your body's natural painkiller. But I found it really helped me. A few things that kind of get me at dance is if I eat something and then I go and do exercise, it normally doesn't end up good for me. So normally before dance class, I don't really eat very much. But then, like I said, I have type 1 diabetes, so I have to balance that out. Being in a leotard, it's fine as long as I'm having a good day. But thankfully, my dance school isn't very strict about uniforms in class, because sometimes I want to go to dance class and I'm not too bad, but I don't want to be wearing a leotard, because if you have to get to the bathroom really quick, more than likely you will find it very difficult to get the leotard off. And that's not something I would recommend. But if leotards, if you're bloating, like, you see everything. So not that anybody really cares in dance class, but it can be kind of uncomfortable then. Those things kind of are frustrating, having gut issues. They're very unpredictable. I find when I get nervous or stressed about stuff, it triggers me, and you can't just say to somebody, don't be nervous, don't be stressed. It's not something that you have complete control over. As well as that, I have to, if there's an event coming up, I try so hard to be good. And I know when other people say they're being good when relating to food, they mean eating really healthy. I just mean like genuinely eating the blandest diet I can to make sure I don't trigger or set off anything. And in hindsight, then I look back and say, well, I was so stressed and that's probably what triggered it. But everything always works out. My mum always says everything happens for a reason, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing at the time. It normally happens for a reason. And looking back, all the crazy stories that have happened to me thanks to my intestinal failure, I've always managed, and that's what's important. If you have gut issues or any chronic illness, just if something happens that you aren't expecting to happen, then just deal with it. I know that's kind of tough love, but you have to deal with it. You have to keep going. You can have your days where well, maybe not a full day. You can have your moments where you have a little cry and say, why me? It's not fair. Because it's not fair. Why should this be happening to you? But then that's not going to make things better for you. If you really, really want to make things better, you have to do it. I have my gut issues. I deal with them. I'm not perfect. I know there's things I could be doing that I'm not doing. I have good days, and it's important that you think about the good days and try to forget about the bad days. If you have gut issues, I hope this video makes you realise that you're not alone, that there are quite a lot of people out there with different types of gut issues. Please feel free to comment below if whatever your gut issues are, whether it is something like IBS or Crohn's disease or short gut syndrome or Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I mean, there's loads of different gut issues out there, and I love to hear from you. Also, please subscribe to my channel because I will be doing more videos like this on different chronic illnesses and kind of basically just how I live with them. I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but this is how I manage with them. 'Cause I'm stuck in limbo.